Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek of the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on volume 26, chapter 2, and the hype levels have not left me. Hype. Are you all hype? Welcome, everybody, to the premiere Hey Chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday after Mushoku Monday. Greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, everything. It all kind of adds up to make this a great experience, and I appreciate you guys so much. As per usual, greatly appreciate everybody that supports channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. That stuff keeps this stuff going, keeps the lights on, all that stuff. Inferno Torch with a bunch of supers. Thank you so much, Inferno Torch. It means so much to me. Thank you. Sergio Donna with 21 months. We're going on 2 years at this point. Noah with a super. Thank you, Noah. Subra, I forgot to write down the pronunciation. I'm gonna get it wrong again. Subro. Thank you so much, Subro, for the super. Nicholas with 21 months, going on 2 years as well. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Royce with the super. Thank you. And Mr. Sunshine with a super. Thank you so much, guys. It means so much to me. You guys are amazing. But yes, with all that said, let's get into chapter 2. Finally getting into the appearance of the trump card, as the title leads you to believe. Chapter 2, the trump card. Yes, we're going to come in with the fighter jet. I was calling a fighter jet. No, it ends up being a magic armor that apparently is the opposite of version 3. Hold on. We'll get to the 7 Seas moment in a minute. Hold on. Chill. Thanks to Etoff and the others, it took a full day for the fighting god to appear. Well, Etoff was an immortal demon and wouldn't die so easily. Their sacrifices allowed for Rudius to fully prepare. The fighting god came directly, didn't hide or rush. He just strolled in with Geese on his shoulder as if to declare that he was unstoppable. I think at this point, you can give him that credit. One Punch Man here. The battle began. Rudius stood atop a towering wall, 10 meters high, 2 kilometers long. He built it to protect the forest. From up there, he rained down magic on what lay below. Stone cannons specifically. Rudius wanted to at least knock Geese down, so he fired off as many shots as he could. The eye of distant sight didn't work on Bodyguddi. Orsid said that he didn't even know why, but it was probably safe to assume that Bodyguddi was a blessed child with that power. Or else he had done something in the past to gain resistances. Yeah, it's so funny. I don't remember if I even got into that back then, what exactly that potion was. Obviously, again, the man god knew about it, knew where to tell him to go. He went there, was able to find the potion. He drank the potion. It allowed him to have that power. It was saying something to the effect of, like, getting that just so that, you know, somebody like Aldebaran wouldn't be able to get it or whatever. But it's like, yeah, it makes you question what exactly was it. The assumption is that it was maybe a potion that was dropped by somebody, and then mana was flowing into the actual labyrinth, because it was a labyrinth, if I remember correctly. That mana was flowing into the labyrinth, it went by it, and like everything else that was magical items in these labyrinths, it was infused with magic, and for some reason, it just gave it that power, just like everything else. Like, Paul had that weapon that allowed it to cut through things. Like, the more hard it was to cut through it, the sharper it was. And so it's like just those random powers that can be given stuff. But yeah, there's like another side of me that's like, is it possibly like the blood of a demon king? Or is it a blood of an immortal demon? Is it something like that? It's kind of interesting. But it's interesting that Orsted doesn't know. I mean, you would kind of wonder if at some point during all of his loops, he would have found out about that. But again, what would have happened to give him that indication? I guess technically in one of the loops, he would have found out that Kishirika's eyes doesn't work on Bodyguddi. I mean, I guess that is kind of something that could have been common knowledge in one of the loops. It's interesting. But I have to admit, though, the idea of him bringing up Blessed Child, him being a Blessed Child, it kind of makes me wonder, like, is it related to Blessed Children, the potion itself? While he was far away, it was hard to miss the gold. Rudius had been practicing stone cannon ever since he was born into this world. His hits were landing. For every 10 he fired, 1 landed. Only even at this distance, he could tell that they weren't doing much damage. When he got a direct hit, a hole opened in the gold armor, but it repaired itself right away. Rudius wasn't piercing it, and it wasn't slowing down. That is interesting. Despite the fact that it has that resistances, the stone cannon can still get through it. And I wonder if that's just an aspect of that. Yes, even though the earth magic itself is being created with mana, it's still physical in a sense. Which I guess you can argue with fire and water. It repaired itself right away. Rudius wasn't piercing it, and it wasn't slowing down. The fighting god walked forward without even bothering to defend himself. Again, if you're an immortal demon that can easily restore, the concept of death isn't really there. The damage must be weakened by distance, so Rudius had no choice but to shoot him at point blank. He did hit Geese once, knocking him off Bodyguddi's shoulder. But he got up like nothing had happened, so apparently it did no damage. He did move to stand behind Bodyguddi rather than return to his shoulder, so it must have woken him up at least. Yes, I'm starting to wonder at this point, because again, we indicated based on what Orsted said, and this is kind of getting into something I guess I could talk about later, but we can get into it now. Orsted said that yes, the armor itself has some sort of ability that to ward off magic, and so we were kind of applying that to what they were talking about with Etof's personal guard casting magic on him and it being warded away. And Sander at the time was like, yeah, it's probably Geese. Geese probably has some sort of magical implement or something that he prepared for this battle, knowing this was coming. And yes, I kind of assumed that was going to be the case, that he probably had something. I'm starting to think it's both. I'm at this point believing that it's probably both, that Geese may have prepared something, and yes, the armor itself can ward stuff. Even though Rudius with his stone cannons being so powerful, it's pushing through that. It's that brute force, like they were talking about with Laplace. So much brute force of power and magic can eventually get through this system. It's not invincible. But then I started wondering if it's a possibility that it's just all what the man god told him. Go in there, and then whenever you hear a bird chirp 2 times, make sure you turn slightly to your left, and thus you won't die. And so it is really a case where Rudius does shoot something at him, and he just goes, oh, this is the 2 bird chirps, turns, and then the stone cannon goes by. It could be something like that, and it's kind of something that I'll apply to, again, later on. I think it's just multiples here. That Rudius is hitting him, it could be getting through the defenses, but at the same time, Geese could have something, or the man god has prepared him. A hit at closer range might have done enough damage to kill him, but given Rudius hadn't taken him out with lightning, it seems safe to assume that Geese had given him some sort of magic resistance. It could be that cloak. There's so much emphasis given to that cloak, it's probably an extremely powerful cloak. In the end, Rudius couldn't manage anything close to slowing them down. Once the fighting god got close enough, Rudius used fire magic to burn the outer wall, then retreated to the forest. As Rudius confirmed that the wall had been destroyed, he assured himself that it was all going according to plan. They would take the win. Everything would be okay. Keep telling yourself that. He knew this is how things would go. It's all according to Keikaku. Don't worry, Rudius. There's no way this would be enough to stop Geese and Bodyguddi. I like that, not trying to talk himself up like, damn, it's all going according to plan. Yes, I know that wasn't going to stop him. Again, all of this is just to slow them down. When the fighting god entered the trees, Rudius cast wide area deep mist and covered the forest. Then he added Quagmire of the same size. He had the Superd and Resurd act as scouts and use guerrilla tactics. His demon eye didn't work, but the Superd eyes were trained on the fighting god. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, and that's technically a good thing to use. A report came in that the fighting god had become lost and spent several hours stumbling around the fog. Hoping that he'd eventually wander back to the edge of the forest, Rudius continued to cast dense mist and Quagmire in the area. Wasn't that called deep mist before? Dense mist now? It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Then after a few hours, Resurd reported the fighting god settled on his direction of advancement. This is kind of where I was already assuming, I would assume that at some point he just gets some word from the man god. Yeah. Again, turn 3 times and go that direction. He was heading straight for the ravine of the earthworm. Rudius bet it was thanks to Geese. Bodyguddi alone would have been one thing. But Geese seemed like the sort to know how to navigate a forest under dense mist. It wasn't hard to imagine that he had some sort of magical implement or item. All these tactics in mind, Rudius' team had slowed them down by a measly 3 hours. 3 of their fighters were dead. The fighting god had taken out Superd warriors who had gotten too close. Their deaths would not be in vain. Really? We're going there, eh? No, just knocked out. No, they're just sleeping. No, they just fainted. No, they're unconscious. We finally have official body counts. This sucks. I have to admit this sucks. I mean, yes, granted, what happened on the beach, there's a possibility we have dead bodies over there. There is a possibility that Sander is dead. He could possibly not just be unconscious. He could be dead. I want to hope that Sander and Etof's personal guard are not dead, because it seems like such a bummer to just cut away from these characters that we've built up so much love for, to just cut away, chapter cut, and then later on find out, oh yeah, they're dead, by the way. But this is confirmation. 3 right here. These are confirmed deads. 3 fighters are dead. 2, they got too close. First blood, basically. Confirmed kills. And it sucks because, again, this goes into... This is where I'm starting to disconnect from Bodyguddi. As much as I love the guy, I love my Bodyguddi laughing. Blah! Figure runs! Relax, Rudius. Drink and be merry. I loved Bodyguddi so much, but now this is where it's like, and this is war. I understand that. This is war. This is a battle. But this is, again, all being led right here by Bodyguddi. He's the one stepping forward. He's the one with the weapon in hand. He's able to pull that trigger. He is the one that is killing people right now. And it's all for what, again? Because he let Geese win him in a drinking battle and then accepted, oh, he apologized, so I'm going to help him out. It's ruining it. Like, this is where Bodyguddi's going in the realm of Irredeemable. This sucks. These fighters that are just protecting their land, he's coming in there, killing them. It sucks. This is where it all kind of sucks. This is where body count's starting to increase. It sucks. I really like Bodyguddi's character so freaking much. And this, when I read this, I'm like, we're not going to make him redeemable, are we? There's no turning back at this point. There's no blah ha ha ha, drink and be merry, let's all drink together, and they have a party in the superb village. Anyways, sucks. It does. They stopped him long enough for the sun to set. Now I'm bummed. When that happened, the fighting god stopped moving. He wasn't solar powered, but stopped activity. Rudius, on the other hand, didn't let up on the dense mist or the quagmire, and the superb warriors never paused their campaign. Rudius carried out long-range attacks with blast cannon. What is blast cannon? I don't remember them ever mentioning blast cannon. He wasn't hoping to do any damage. The point was not to allow them to sleep or get rest. It might not have much effect on Bodyguddi, but it would affect Geese. Dude, we're going massive, like, psychological warfare in the middle of the battle. The first day ended. Second day, they carried on like they did the first afternoon. They made the most of the day, luring the fighting god towards the earthworn ravine. The third day dawned. Rudius stood atop a barricading wall they had built at the edge of the cliff on the side of the ravine, keeping a close watch on the shadowy forest. Right beside Rudius stood Rizurd, also staring into the forest. Earthworm Ravine was extremely suited for defense. It was almost a kilometer deep, and the cliff on the side of the superb village was slightly elevated. The high ground had an advantage in the fight. Climbing took energy. Height gave visibility. Using earth magic, he built a wall on that cliff. It was almost 20 meters tall, shorter than the one at the edge of the forest. Seeing as this was the only point in the ravine that narrowed, that wasn't a problem. Rudius had made a hole in the defense when he had made a bridge as a way in, but that hole had been filled when he brought the bridge down with him. With this, they wouldn't have an episode like they did with the Ogre God. No jumping across. Probably. I don't really see any problem with Bodyguddi just like full-on charge jumping, but it kind of implies this thing, I guess, is not that... This isn't like a mecha as much as Andrew wanted to make fun of it last volume. This isn't like a mecha with like... It might have jetpacks later. It might have energy jetpacks, mana busts out the back of it to project it forward, doing like wind magic basically. But for now, it's not, rockets shooting it over the building. It's still got to run and jump. He wasn't planning on underestimating the fighting god's power, but this wall was the tallest and the strongest he could make in a short time. If the fighting god could still jump over it, they might as well just give up. Assuming he couldn't, if he clung to the cliff face, Rudius could blast him from above. In this battle, Rudius learned that even if he could neutralize magic, that didn't extend to neutralizing the changes in landscape. Rudius also learned that stone cannon was plenty effective. In addition, Geese didn't have any strength. If Rudius hit him with stone cannon, he'd fall to the bottom of the ravine. Geese was a tricky guy, but he was useless in a head-on brawl. Okay, two things here. One, if he falls in the ravine, who cares? Like, he's just gonna climb up it. Like, I don't see any problem with that armor climbing up the side of that face. But it's gonna take time. And again, if he just keeps blasting him as he climbs up there. But even still, like, there's a little side of me, and I even mentioned this last Mushoku Monday. There's a little side of me that kind of throws a little doubt back at me. Now, granted, Geese has repeated this tons of times in his own inner dialogue during his chapters, so it's something that's got to change. Yeah, there's a side of me that kind of wonders that if the big crazy twist is going to be later on, Rudius is finally face off against Geese, and it turns out that Geese has, like, maybe he gets a magical implement that gives him the power to actually fight really well. Like, something completely tricks everybody, because we've spent all this time thinking that Geese is the weakest dude ever, and then suddenly he gets a magical implement that makes him fast. He drinks a potion that makes him a martial artist. But again, give a weakling a tool, and they can become extremely powerful. We've seen that with the blade of Ch2. With that blade, it essentially turned a saint-level person into an emperor-level person. What's to say that there's not a weapon out there that, when wielded by anybody, can be even more powerful than that? Again, this blade that Geese was apparently putting together. What if that blade, all you have to do is swing it, and you can end people? There's a possibility that Geese could have something that would make him an incredible fighter. Body seemed like he had some tricks up his sleeve, though, and Geese was cunning. They were a perfect match. Risky as it was to lead them down a narrow point of the ravine, it was still better than having them cross without anyone knowing. Rias was joined by Cliff, Regerd, and the Superb warriors above the ravine, and the other Superbs were positioned at regular points along the stretches, not walled. They would alert Rudius if they tried to cross. Etta stood by, directly behind the wall. Once Geese and Bodyguddi broke through, it would be an all-out war. In the end, they had bought themselves an extra 2 days' time, but they still hadn't heard from Roxy, so the extra time might have been for nothing. Still, Rudius wouldn't change his approach. They knew from battle at the port town that they couldn't win head-on. He needed his trump card. Night fell, and Rudius had no idea when they might come. They kept an eye out on the forest, but wherever they camped must have been out of range. Regerd then called out, "They're here." Rudius strained his eyes to look. There they were. They were no bigger than a grain of rice, but there was someone standing in the trees. It wasn't golden, though. This person wore a white robe. Rudius had seen that white robe before. It was Geese. Well, it was possible that was someone else, but it looked like Geese. "Who is it?" "It's him," Regerd said with conviction. The distance between them was within range of Regerd's eye. It was unlikely Regerd was wrong. Geese appeared to be watching them from within the forest amongst the undergrowth. Still, there was no sparkle of gold anywhere nearby. Geese was alone. Was he scouting by himself? Geese, who knew what Rudius could do, and the Superb were here too. He was alone? Was he that confident? Was Bodyguddi waiting nearby? The ravine was 100 meters across, at most. If Bodyguddi was close enough to come to Geese's defense, Regerd would have been able to see him. An attack from Rudius could take him down. At this realization, Rudius' heart started to race. Stone cannon would reach him. Geese was looking their way, but Rudius had a feeling that he couldn't see him. It would hit. It was 100 meters. Rudius paused, wondering what he should do. What if it was someone else, like an adventurer in white robes, who had just happened to get lost in the forest in the middle of a battle? No, there was no way. After their dense mist and quagmire, the forest was a mess. No adventurer would have made it this far. Even if they had already been close to the ravine, the Superb radar would have picked them up. Rudius could take Geese out right now. But he wondered what he should do. It was 100% a trap. What sort of trap? Rudius could attack, but what could Geese do? Was there some advantage he got by making Rudius attack? Let's say that whoever over there looked like Geese, but was actually someone else. Could they be one of Rudius' friends or family? No way. That was impossible. Up until yesterday, there'd only been 2 of them. They couldn't have brought someone else along out of nowhere. So was this an opening? Rudius had been working to buy time, not actively attacking. They made rapid progress from the port town to here, after a leisurely journey with Bodyguddi. Maybe Geese got cocky about an easy victory. Could it be that his guard was down, and he revealed himself? It'd be the easiest thing to attack, and the risk was low. There was no reason not to attack, right? It was also possible that he had placed someone there who Rudius didn't want to see die. Strategically, what would be the point of that? Why not attack? Rudius was getting muddled. It felt like a trap, but he couldn't see any downside to attacking. He'd attack. There was no downside to just shooting him. "I'm going to attack." "Understood." Rudius concentrated magic into his right hand. This is so funny because this is one of those moments, and I give Refugin a lot of credit here. This is one of those moments where the initial impression I get is trust. And then I slowly start to go down Rudius' mindset here, and I start to kind of doubt myself. Through Rudius doubting himself, I start to doubt myself. Because remember, at the very beginning of this segment, Regerd says, "It's him." He said it with conviction. I didn't add that part. Regerd says with conviction, "It's him." Now, yes, Regerd could just be going based on seeing the cloak. The white cloak. It's got to be Regerd. I see his cloak. But again, Regerd is probably looking at him with his third eye. And I'm pretty sure that Regerd would be using that with, obviously, specifically using that not his actual eyes, and he would be seeing what? Mana. He'd be seeing mana. He'd be seeing Geese's mana. And so I would trust Regerd with his words of conviction, "It's him," that he knows that is Geese. But as I'm reading Rudius and his mindset here, where he goes into what would be the benefit? If he goes out there, I can shoot and kill him. Why would he do that? He knows we're here. Why would he go there? Why is he standing there? What does he have to gain? That's the key thing there. What does he have to gain for me to have a shot to kill him? It doesn't make any sense. Maybe he got cocky. No, this is Geese we're talking about. That would never happen. Yeah, but yeah, he technically got this far without any problem. Maybe he's just getting cocky. Okay, it's got to be that. But again, why would he be so dumb? Why would Bodyguddi not be with him? Where's Bodyguddi? Is he waiting somewhere? Is he somewhere nearby? But then the question mark comes up that really scares me personally as I'm reading this. What if it is one of Ruius's friends or family? I don't really care. I don't think it's going to be some rando. He's talking about like, yeah, maybe somebody got lost. Somebody in a white robe just got lost out there. Doubt it. Again, he's talking about this entire forest area before the ravine. So you have the outer area where Bodyguddi and them just marched. They get to the forest line. Ruius has been misting and all that kind of stuff. Guerrilla tactics, all before it gets to the ravine. And then once they got through all that, Ruius pulls back behind the ravine, pulls up the wall, and then they're just watching. Nobody's walking through that forest. Again, it's clouded and mist. It's full of quagmire. The place is destroyed. What if it's one of his friends or family? That started to scare me. What if it is somebody that Ruius didn't want to see die? Strategically, what would be the point of that, he asked, though? I think that would absolutely wreck Ruius. And so my mind with Ruius immediately goes to who? Who? Ettoff? No. Maybe Sander, but what? How could they get Sander to sit there and stand there and wait for him? Unless Sander was already dead and somehow Geese walked up behind him like a puppet and moved his body there and then propped him up on a stick so that he stands there. But would he have mana flow? Would Rizard be able to see him and see his mana? Who else? Who else is in this area? Aisha. I was terrified for a moment that it would be Aisha. That he would psychological warfare here, that Geese would have captured Aisha on the way there. Because I don't see them stopping there and then running over there and grabbing Aisha, who again was supposedly going to be at the border with the Quagmire band, stopping them from being able to escape. And so he could have gone over there through knowledge from the man god, yeah, that he's going to be over there. But again, apparently, the other god went over to the other nearby country to destroy the office and then came back. Part of that whole process could have been also, when you're at the border, grab Aisha. And so when they finally come back over here, Aisha is somewhere nearby here captured. And then Geese goes and picks her up and then brings her with them. It's a possibility. And so I was right here with Ruius starting to really question, it better not be Aisha. It better not be Aisha. I'm going to be so freaking mad. Oh, because my gut was kind of turning right here. Truth be told, my stomach was starting to turn here. I'm like, Ruius, don't forget about Aisha. But then again, I remembered, it's him. Rizard said with conviction. It's got to be Geese. There's no way that Rizard would have called that wrong. Rizard knows exactly who's standing there. Anyways, I'm going to attack. Understood. Ruius concentrated magic into his right hand. He was more interested in accuracy than speed or power. He still couldn't see Geese with the Eye of Distant Sight, but Ruius used it to project the landscape, while flicking mana to his Eye of Foresight, predicting where his shot would land. In case it went wide, he decided to use Blast Cannon. He hesitated just before he fired, just for a moment. The moment passed, and the stone cannon burst from his finger, hurling towards the other side of the ravine on a dead straight trajectory. There was no sound. As it impacted, the figure collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. The shot had hit, and it had gotten results. Time passed. It was surreal, like nothing had happened. The fallen figure didn't move. I'm curious why his Eye of Distant Sight could not help him see it. He says that it was there, and that he didn't see gold, but for some reason his Eye of Distant Sight, he still couldn't see Geese. It doesn't specifically say it. I don't think this is going to be the case. It doesn't specifically say it, but he says that Eye of Distant Sight, he still couldn't see Geese. There shouldn't be any reason that he wouldn't be able to physically see him, unless But I think Ruiz would have pointed this out. Unless Geese right here has a part of Bodyguddi's body. That he took an arm or a hand from Bodyguddi. Bodyguddi cut it off and gave it to him for him to carry it with him to not be able to be seen by a demon eye when he's before him. That's kind of curious. I didn't think about that the first time I read it. But I do find this very clever. The idea of using Eye of Foresight and distance to essentially aim. Like he's literally seeing the possibilities of where his stone cannon is going to go using his Eye of Foresight. And then he finally gets an idea of, okay, it's going to go right there. All right, let it fire. Like he's foreseeing where it's going to go. Okay, let it go off. Interesting. In the light of the morning, all Ruiz could hear was a quiet rustling of the forest. 10 minutes passed, then 20. While not keeping exact time, it felt like time kept slipping away. A feeling took root in Ruiz. He wanted to know. Whatever was lying on the ground there, was it Geese or someone else? Was it alive or dead? He could hop down and be back in a jiffy. Surely that would be fine. This sucks. But as the idea came to him, he realized what was going on. This was a trap. Geese's plan was to get him to attack and then make him feel as he felt now. Maybe whoever lay there was Geese, on the verge of death, and all Reese had to do was strike the final blow. Maybe it was Sylphie. They had captured her at some point, then came up with a way to trick him into having to rush to her aid. Even if either of those were true, if he went to look, the fighting god would appear. Then they'd lose. An hour passed. Ruiz was on the edge. Had he made some irreversible mistake? Should he not have shot the figure at all? Was their aim in making him shoot was just to keep him locked down at this location? What if, even now, they were crossing elsewhere? No, the superb warriors were watching. Ruiz trusted them. 2 hours passed. Ruiz wondered if he should check, wondering if checking would give some clue as to Geese's next move. Was he avoiding finding out the truth for some reason? 3 hours passed. Nothing moved. All sorts of patterns floated in Ruiz's mind. This wandering starting to wear him down. If Geese's plan was to make Ruiz exhausted, he succeeded. After 4 hours, Ruiz was certain it was a corpse. It hadn't moved for 4 hours, so it had to be a body. But whose? Was it possible that Geese was dead and Bodyguddi was doing nothing? If Roxy was here, she might have had something constructive to say. When Ruiz asked Cliff, he just frowned and shook his head. 6 hours passed. The sun was growing steadily lower in the sky. Maybe because Ruiz had been on constant alert, he was getting more tired. If the sun set below the horizon and still nothing, he'd go take a look. 10 hours passed. Richard finally spoke up. Ruiz, he's here. Ruiz looked into the forest, just in time to see shining gold armor step out. When the armor grew near, the corpse slowly got up. It turned its face up to the armor for a while, as though to say something, then turned back to Ruiz's way. It shrugged. That was Geese's shrug. No doubt about it. Without any further fanfare, the two of them retreated into the forest. Silence fell once more. Ruiz sighed. It had been a trap. The figure was Geese, but he used himself as bait. Ruiz got close to falling for it. Night was about to fall, so they leave the superb warrior on guard to catch some sleep. Ruiz's mind was fried. He settled for a nap. The third day ended. Very, very clever. I gotta give Geese this one. This is very, very clever. Again, it's all the question mark of the what if, what if, what if, what if. I mean, personally, again, I would probably, if I was in Ruiz's position, I would have asked Richard one more time, are you sure? Are you using your third eye? Are you sure that is Geese? It is? Okay. Fire. The moment is down. Yeah, wait for a little bit. Wait for a little bit. And again, ask Richard, do you still see him? Is there still mana there? I would assume there would still be mana there if he was dead. Going back to my comments about Sander, I guess, is really kind of there. I would assume that that their mana would probably stay there for a while. Because again, they say the idea that when they die, they will end up being reanimated. And it's mostly because of mana. And it could be nearby mana as well. The mana itself is what reanimates it. So I'd assume there would still be mana there. But my answer to this whole thing is, should we go down and check? Yeah. Send one of the superbs. Send one of the superb warriors over there. Throw a spear at it. From a distance, throw a spear at it. I mean, yes, I hate the idea of sending one of the superbs because that just puts their life in danger. But their goal, Geese's goal, and Bodyguddi's goal is Rudius. If you send one of the Superbs there, they're not going to attack like they would have attacked on Rudius. If Rudius goes out there, yes, trap, springs, Bodyguddi comes rushing up, gets him. But if you send one of the Superb Warriors, they can throw something at him, stab him, whatever, or just keep shooting him. Blast the damn thing. Blow it to smithereens. Go all in at that point. If you shot him once and you're worried that it might be somebody else, you already done it. You already killed them. You might as well make sure it's gone. And that way you'll never know that you got the wrong person. Just nuke the whole area completely and get rid of it. But yeah, that's what I would have done. I would have sent somebody else over there. Go stab it a couple times. Because again, right here, this is solidifying that Geese has either something or he was told exactly what to do there. That the moment that, again, go to the ravine, when you hear this or when this happens, turn slightly to the side, and that's when Rudius will shoot at you and you won't die. Again, he doesn't give the details of it, but again, my other thought here is that, yeah, this makes me believe, because again, he said, I think that there was a sound, it was a thud. No, he said, there was no sound. As it impacted, the figure collapsed like a puppet with its string cut. There was no sound. That makes me believe it's an implement or something, that he has some sort of magical implement or something that is protecting his body. And again, it could be that he has a part of Bodyguddi's body. But Bodyguddi's body is not going to be able to stop a stone cannon unless it's a part of Bodyguddi's body that has a piece of the magic armor on it. And that is what stopped it. But again, the armor is not stopping Rudius' stone cannons either. This has to be a different magical implement. Geese has to have some sort of very powerful protection on. And it could be that robe again. It was the third night. It seemed after seeing their wall, Geese and Bodyguddi were struggling to work out an effective attack strategy. Bodyguddi couldn't simply jump over the wall. And if he couldn't do that, he couldn't protect Geese. Rudius had been right on that count. Then there was the missiles that came hurling at them from the other side of the valley. First came a massive boulder that hit the wall at hair-raising speed, knocking out a chunk of it. More boulders and trees followed, coming one after another at terrifying speeds. Rudius woke to a cacophony and has intercepted them all, so they didn't do any significant damage. Bodyguddi and Geese must have decided the wall was blocking their advance. Based on what Rudius had seen with the Fighting God's battle style, he could have smashed his way through if he were alone. It had been Geese holding him back. If he had left Geese behind and leapt over, he could get through. Only then, if a pursuit came from the rear, Geese would have been dead meat. Not that there were any reinforcements coming from outside the forest. Maybe Etoff, if she regenerated, and came after them. Maybe they were afraid of something like that. A single superb warrior from the other side should be enough, to be fair. Yeah, I thought right here that this is probably the point in which Bodyguddi and Geese split up. I have no doubt that Bodyguddi might have chucked Geese over the wall. Because everything else is gone. There's no other bridges. Again, the original bridge is gone. The one that Rudius built is broke. So the only thing left is one of two things. One, Bodyguddi chucks Geese over the ravine and then charged in by himself. Or two, which I highly doubt, he put Geese inside the magic armor, which I don't think that's going to be the case. But it was possible the two of them wisened up to the danger of leaving Geese yesterday. A guard could finish off Geese if he was by himself. Yeah, he should have done that. Rudius didn't have to be there. It was getting to the point where the Fighting God might as well run out of patience and jump alone. Rudius' trump card still hadn't come. On the fourth day, the sun came up, and the Fighting God along with it. As Rudius predicted, he was alone, and came with a running jump, just like the Ogre God. He stuck fast at a point, a little below the wall. Everything was according to plan. The moment Rudius saw that Geese wasn't on his back, he released a spell at the other side of the ravine, casting flashover over a wide area. The forest was swallowed by flames in an instant. Rudius couldn't tell if he got him. He didn't have time to scan for a body. He kept the blaze of the burning trees at the corner of his eye, but had an enemy in front of him who required full attention. Using his 6 arms to climb up like a spider, the Fighting God scaled the wall at a shocking pace. Cliff and Rudius fired stone cannons and giant water bombs at him to try to knock him off, but it was like trying to hold back the tide. The Fighting God flew up the wall at a blistering speed. Cliff, it's no good. Fall back. Regerd, get us out of here. Understood. Regerd grabbed onto the two of them and jumped from the wall. They didn't wait for the Fighting God to get over the wall. The moment they hit the ground, Rudius used magic to send the towering wall crashing down to the ravine. It did no good. The wall began to crumble away with aching slowness, then exploded all at once, as though by dynamite. Great hunks of rock flew through the air, and among them, a golden armor. It wasn't going to be that easy, Rudius. It wasn't going to be that easy. I don't know. The hope there, I guess, was just to bury him alive down in the ravine or something. I don't think that would have worked. Again, it's all to slow him down. Rudius used magic to clear the boulders coming their way, never taking his eye off the fighting god. The fighting god alighted at a point less than 5 meters away with a grunt. Then he slowly faced Rudius.
Let's pick up where we left off.
He folded his upper arms, put his lower hands at his hips, and pointed at Rudius with his middle hand.
I am the fighting god Bodyguddi, friend to the man god, and heir to the name of the fighting god. Rudius Greyrat, I challenge you to a duel.
Rudius shouted quickly, knowing Bodyguddi might tell him that he's wasting his breath. I have a question. Your Majesty, why have you joined forces with the man god? What do you mean you're his friend? Were you not deceived by him once before?
Indeed I was, boy. He tricked me, saying that it was to save Kishirika from dying at Laplace's hand. I donned this armor, then I killed Laplace, but did Kishirika a mortal wound in the process.
Then why?
The man god came to me on his knees, and said that he was sorry for that. Not only that, but he begged that I lend him my strength. I could not say no after that.
See, this is one of those moments where it kind of shifts a little bit away from what we sort of pre-established here. Again, it went from Geese came to him and won him over, showed him cunning, and at that point, he then talked to the man god, and then joined the man god at that point. The man god apologized to him and asked him for help. But again, back here, he already was won over by Geese. He allowed Geese to win. But right here, it sort of gives up on the idea that it was Geese. Here, he's only talking about the man god. He's going to help the man god. He's not saying, I'm helping Geese because he won me over. Geese is a strong man. He's got a lot of ambition there, whatever. But then, of course, before, on the beach, he expressed to Sander that he accepted Geese over that. But again, that was talking to Geese. Kind of back and forth here. It's kind of interesting. Though again, Rudius is asking specifically about the man god, and so he's going to reply about the man god. Rudius couldn't imagine that bastard ever apologizing. Right? Rudius is like, what the hell are you talking about? There ain't no way in hell the man god apologized to somebody. But this is more interesting right here. Indeed I was, boy. He tricked me, saying it was to save Kishirika from dying at the hands of Laplace. I guess he's just connecting Aldebaran to Laplace at that point. So I guess it's not too confusing. Because again, everybody thought that and even he did, that Aldebaran was this hero human that was saving them. And then he finds out later that no, it was actually Laplace. But when Mangod told him to stop Aldebaran, it was because Aldebaran was the fighting god and that he was, gonna defeat all of you. So I guess to Bodyguddi, they're both the same. And so he's going to, he said Aldebaran at the time, but he was technically talking about Laplace. But again, it was more the fact that he was, mad at the time that he attacked Laplace, thinking that he was attacking Kishirika. It is so funny, it feels like this is all mudding up that whole situation again when it feels like that all that stuff is pretty much clarified. I'm probably overcomplicating it myself. Rudius couldn't imagine that bastard ever apologizing, right? If he did, he'd just smirk and be like, Teehee, I'm so sorry. Idiot. He's going to deceive you again.
I care not. Should it be so, he need only apologize, and I will forgive him. I am immortal, and Kishirika regenerated. If he apologizes, then I have no quarrel with him. What more could I ask for?
That was too generous. Rudius thought Bodyguddi had a good point. Rudius did believe that you should forgive people for petty dishonesty too. Only Rudius didn't have the luxury of writing off death of family members as petty. He wasn't an immortal demon. He saw the world differently. From Bodyguddi's perspective, Kishirika was always going to regenerate. Again, I agree. 100% agreed. I'm following Rudius' logic here. Rudius is trying to understand Bodyguddi. He is. Just like me. Rudius is doing the same breakdown as I am. Okay, makes sense. If the man god does this to me, I fight back. That's what I'm doing right now. Way back here, Rudius sees his future self come in and say, he killed Roxy. And then all this horrible stuff happened after that. He took everything from me. And Rudius said, I won't let that happen. Again, Rudius, when he read that diary, he experienced that. He had to take breaks. Rudius was living Oldius's life. because it's so real, because he wrote it. He wasn't there, but he wrote it and he felt it. These are my words. It resonates with me. How it's wrote, how the writing style is, it is me. So Ruius is fighting back. He can't forgive the man god. He cannot forgive him. But then he gets swept up into having to help him. He has to go try to kill Orsted. Orsted gives him a way out. And now he's going to fight tooth and nail against the man god. I won't let you take this stuff from me. Bodyguddi's different because Bodyguddi is an immortal. And Kishirika is an immortal. So they just pop back up on their feet. But now let's take my experience and let's put Bodyguddi in that position. Oh yeah, if he tries to kill my family, they just get back on their feet. Oh yeah, you can forgive it. It works. Oh, he tried to take my life. Oh, it's fine. He apologized. Nothing was damaged in the end. As an immortal demon, you can't easily take their lives. Nothing was lost. He didn't lose Kishirika. Thus, Bodyguddi sees the world differently. Ruius believes that he should be able to forgive the man god, but he can't because death is a thing. Thus, Bodyguddi sees it different. But my argument, like I said, I followed Ruius just the same. But my argument again was, but that armor could end the world. Thus, there's no place for Kishirika to exist. She can't regenerate. Now, she might be able to regenerate in empty space, and that's a horrible prison for eternity. So I like that Ruius is trying to understand Bodyguddi, but at the same time, I have an extra step that he's missing there. Don't suppose that you betray him and come over to our side?
Never. I was never an ally with the dragon god. However, if you win this battle, I shall consider it.
He was telling Ruius to fight and take what he wanted. Bodyguddi and Etoff were alike in this area. Come to think of it, the first time Ruius had ever met the Demon King had been at a dueling arena. Had Ruius won back then or lost? It had ended with him earning Bodyguddi's respect in any case. And a punch. That'd be why Bodyguddi treated him well. To a Demon King, that had to be what it meant to fight. Yeah, and I guess right there, with that logic, I would tell Bodyguddi, did I not earn your respect? I thought we dueled. I thought we had respect. You're not allying with the dragon god. You're allying with me. Ally with me, Bodyguddi. Didn't I earn your respect? All right, I accept your challenge. The thing was, Bodyguddi had forgotten to say single combat this time. All of us here will be your opponents. From behind Ruius emerged Eris, Elise, Zonoba, and Doga. Joining them came the Superb, who had been guarding the ravine. It was time for an all-out war. Frontline tanks, Doga and Zonoba. Yeah, it's so funny because later on, Ruius kind of mentions the fact that they should have just kept running or something like that. I'm like, yeah, he's like laying it out like, yeah, frontline tanks, Doga and Zonoba. Ogre God didn't last very long, so I'm not sure how those two will. Frontline attackers, Edis and Rijerd. They were there earlier along with Etoff and Sander, so they're not going to last long. Middle supports, Elise and Superb Warriors. I don't think the Superb Warriors are going to do any better than what Etoff's personal guard was, and Elise didn't last either. Backline attackers, Ruius, you got one shot. Backline healer, Cliff, he was there, but he ran with him. It's like, this is just not a good... This isn't going to end well. This isn't going to end well at all. Which kind of surprising that they lasted as long as they did. The basic plan was Doga and Zonoba would take hits, while Edis and Rijerd doled them out. Elise and the Superb Warriors, who are outclassed in fighting power, would go around behind Bodyguddi from time to time to throw him off. For everyone except Zonoba and Doga, a single hit was potentially fatal. Honestly, a direct hit would be potentially fatal for those two too. But they'd cover each other to avoid taking any. They might still break some bones, or something along those lines. But Cliff and Ruius would heal all that. Cliff was their dedicated healer. Ruius did some healing while firing off stone cannons here and there to divert attacks. He couldn't use Eye of Foresight on Bodyguddi, but he could use it on his allies to predict their movements that way. He'd never done anything like that before, or even practiced it. Yet, for some reason, it worked. He felt like he was fighting with one eye closed, but he could still read Bodyguddi and his allies' movements. If anything, Ruius' movements felt smoother than usual. Maybe that was because his primary role was providing support, or maybe because Bodyguddi's movements were so straightforward. He certainly didn't have Alexander's technique. Alexander had fought Edis, Rijerd, and Sander 3-on-1 and barely took a hit. Not Bodyguddi though. Beyond just being outnumbered, he was also taking practically every hit. Interesting. He can't see Bodyguddi, but by watching everybody else, he can see Bodyguddi. It's literally, it's like the person with the invisible cloak on that is in the rain. You can't see the person that is in the invisible cloak, but you can see what sort of forms around its movements by seeing everybody else. He's watching with his eye of foresight where Edis moves. Okay, Edis suddenly gets thrown over here. It's obviously that Bodyguddi hit her. So he's able to see Bodyguddi through how everybody else reacts to him. It's actually very genius. I never really thought about that. But again, my concern was the idea that if it was sort of a radius, an area, that right now, while everybody's surrounding Bodyguddi, he can't see anything around it. But again, they sort of said that he's probably able to see them way back there on the beach. So I guess that's still the case there. But yeah, obviously, Bodyguddi's going to be much different than Alexander when it comes to a fight because he's taken every hit. He doesn't care what hits him. It's going to be very different. It's very straightforward because he doesn't have to care about defense. He doesn't have to care about countering. He doesn't have to care about shielding himself. That was good. His movements were clearly telegraphed, and Marius caught every last one. However, he couldn't see how to end it. Bodyguddi was taking all the attacks, so at a glance, they were winning. But every attack repaired right away. The golden armor writhed like a living thing to cover up the holes as soon as they appeared. He was probably recovering inside the armor too. In other words, he'd taken no damage and wasn't tired. They wouldn't have a situation like Alexander, where he looked like he was winning easily, while in reality, he was getting more and more tired. The battle was only going to turn further against them as it went on. So long as their formation held and no one went down suddenly, they could hang on. Who knew where it would get them? But it was all they could do. That meager amount proved too much. The first to go down was the superb warriors. They weren't weak, but they were a few levels below reserve. That meager amount proved too much. Yeah, this is literally a person that you cannot do a battle of attrition. And again, the whole point is that they're not wanting to wear him down. They're trying to hold until the trump card comes. The meager amount proved too much. The first to go down was the superb warriors. They weren't weak, but they were a few levels below reserve. They hadn't fought in real battles for the past few hundred years. Some of them might not have been born at the time of the Laplace's War. The warriors who'd only hunted invisible wolves couldn't keep up against the fighting god. One after another, they dropped. Some had clearly died instantly. Others badly wounded and needed healing. They started with 10. They were down to 3. More body count. Bodyguddi's body count is increasing now, still killing off more people. I'm not liking it. Elise was next, certainly not weak either. As far as technique went, she was top in the ranks of adventurers. She was good enough to frontline an S-rank labyrinth, and her defense skill with a shield was unmatched. That ranking was against other adventurers though. Her specialty was aggro control, skillfully deflecting attacks with her shield while piling on low damage attacks. But she lost her trusty shield. Reese had made a backup one with earth magic. But fighting god Bodyguddi's attack easily broke through her deflection technique, throwing her through the air, so she went crashing into a large tree. She blacked out. After that, it all fell apart. Cliff was thrown when Elise went down, and in that moment of distraction, he was caught off guard with the fighting god's charge. He went flying like he'd been hit by a truck and disappeared in the bushes. Whether he was dead or critical, Reese couldn't tell, but he at least knew that he was knocked out. With Cliff out, Zenoba and Doga couldn't hold out any longer. Between Reese's support and Elise's cover, they made sure that they were only taking one out of every few attacks, with Cliff healing between. Now, they were taking almost every hit. With Rudius healing, they were enduring it, but no more than that. Running over to them every time they were sent flying, healing them, and sending them back into the fray was impossible alone. If only he had magic armor version 2, maybe he could have done it. But with his own body without a battle aura, no matter how much he used wind magic to move around, he was too slow. Always one step behind. Their timing got a lot more out of sync, until both Zenoba and Doga was sent flying as a pair. Done. Done. Interesting. Yeah, I completely forgot this, but yes, he doesn't even have, at this point, he doesn't even have version 1 on right now. He's literally naked. Reese right now is completely naked. Not literally naked, shut up. At the same moment, the fighting god targeted Edis. Rajerd covered for her, but that put him out of the battle. Reese rushed over to heal Doga, then Zenoba, but he was too slow. Their line was in shambles. Doga was sent flying, and as Rudius was healing Zenoba, that was when the fighting god hit Edis straight on with his fist. She collapsed, coughing up blood. A voice screamed in Rudius' head that she was fatally wounded. He needed to heal her right away, or it'd be too late. But he was too slow. The fighting god closed in on him. Rah! Zenoba blocked the fighting god's right upper punch. Then, his left. He took a punch from one of the lower arms in the gut, doubling over. Next, a punch from the middle arms got him in the temple, throwing him to one side. Next, the fighting god rounded on Rudius. So freaking Zenoba, dude. Rudius is over there like healing him up, and then the fighting god comes over to freaking hit him, and then Zenoba just stands up there and takes all the hits. My freaking boy Zenoba, boy. He just taking it all for Rudius. Like, don't worry, master. I got this. And again, he's like dressed up in the freaking superb outfit. My boy Zenoba. You better not freaking death flag him again. Freaking Refugin and his Zenoba's dead over here. My boy Zenoba's so great. Rudius didn't have a moment to think. The punch caught him as he was trying to cast Shockwave. It was one of the middle arms. Rudius immediately tried to block it with his arm, but it was a pointless gesture. The impact was so intense, he thought his upper body would be torn apart. Rudius sailed through the air. He wasn't sure if it was good luck or bad luck that he didn't lose consciousness. Well, good luck. In a case where you have healing magic available to you, not losing consciousness is way better. He could feel that all of his bones, from his shoulder down to his ribs, was broken. Maybe his spine too, as he couldn't feel his legs. He couldn't move. It was possible the shock had been so great that it had cut off his pain signals. He simply lost all sensation. Gasping, Rudius immediately casted healing magic on himself, then stood. The sight that greeted him was a scene out of hell. Not a single person was left standing. After he'd gone down, the fighting god had done away with the remaining superb. It was sheer carnage. Rudius made the wrong call on when to pull out, and now they couldn't retreat. Thinking back, they should have fallen back the moment the Eloise went down. He should have seen that they couldn't hold out any longer, and gone back to the superb village. Then he should have left the rest to Orsted. But it was too late for regrets. Yeah, I kind of see this. And again, that was like my whole mindset the moment that he accepted the challenge. If you couldn't have held him back then, you're not going to hold back now. I mean, the lack of Etoff, the lack of Sander, the lack of the Ogre God is a huge miss. But again, Rudius' mindset here was that if Orsted has to fight, you fail. But again, you're going to fail anyways. The fighting god stood to confront him, the last one standing.
Any final words?
Honestly, I like to beg for my life.
You may try, though I would not hold out hope that your pleas will be heard. The man god desires your death.
Rudius wanted to find a moment to heal Edis. It didn't look like he was going to grant that. Maybe if he kept Bodyguddi distracted for 5 minutes, maybe 3, just enough time to dash over to Edis' side. He'd settle for Cliff waking up and healing someone. He frantically searched for something. Okay, you can have my life. In exchange, would you please spare my family?
Oh, family, you say?
I don't think your majesty is aware, but I have children now. All 4 of them, healthy.
Children are a fine thing. I'd like some of my own with Kishirika one day.
Bodyguddi nodded.
Very well, but know that if any of them rise against me, I shall show no mercy.
Of course. After Rudius was dead, the man god would go after his children. But now, he wouldn't have Bodyguddi helping him. Getting that promise would have to do for now. Even if it might not mean anything in the end, that was Rudius' final job. Kind of a clever move here. I kind of wonder if Bodyguddi would hold to it. It does seem like he holds a lot to promises. It seems like everything around this stuff is very much so driven by promises and holding those promises. This is one thing that seems to be, for the honor of the immortal demons, seems to hold a lot of weight. Yeah, there's a good chance that, yeah, if the man god goes, hey, Bodyguddi, do this, he's going to go, no, I promised Rudius I wouldn't touch his family. But that doesn't mean that once Rudius is gone, that Geese isn't going to find somebody else to kill his family. It's just not going to work that way, unfortunately. It's something, though. Bodyguddi cackled, raising his fist.
Farewell then, boy.
Rudius raised both of his hands, his final act. He could at least use his strongest stone cannon. Get down! Rudius threw himself down on all 4s like a dog. I forgot about this whole thing right here. Fucking hype levels up the roof right now. Rudius threw himself down on all 4s like a dog, and something lowered to the ground passed by him at the corner of his vision. It shot between the fighting god's legs, then stopped behind him. It had gray skin, animal ears, and a cat-like tail. Ghislaine! Go, Ghislaine! Man. I kind of assumed eventually this would happen, but not like right now. Go. Finally, Ghislaine gets to do something. And yeah, here I thought Ghislaine was going to get taken out by Geese a long time ago. A black wolf. It sliced through the fighting god's legs around its knees. And for a moment, his balance faltered. But only for a moment. The armor repaired itself straight away, and his fist came down undeterred. Just then, a long skirt fluttered above Rudius. He was being straddled. I like the defensive... There's like this whole, like, it's a defensive position, but at the same time, it's like... It's like Lucky Letcher moment. As the fighting god swung down his fist, he disappeared from view. Rudeus felt something large get blasted away into the sky somewhere behind him. A little later, there was a rumbling, as if something hit the ground. All Rudeus could see was the inside of a long skirt, and above him, a pair of pale blue pantsu. Getting a little good view, eh? The owner of said pantsu seemed familiar, though. He couldn't place them. I mean, he's saying the owner of the pantsu looks familiar, but there's like a side of me that was kind of wondering, like, has he seen her underwear before? I don't think so. I don't think he's ever seen it. But the other one, the wolf, he knew that wolf. Seen them before. No, he couldn't forget. The way of moving, sandy hair, red-brown skin, waving tail, and animal ears. Ghislaine! Let's f***ing go! Let's f***ing go! That meant the other one, with black hair, had to be Isolde. Water Emperor Isolde. Ghislaine and Isolde had been working together. Sylphie! Sylphie came darting out in the battlefield like a mouse. She went over to the fallen and simply laid her hands on them. It only took that much for their wounds to be healed. Before he knew it, she'd healed Doga and Zenoba. She was using voiceless casting. Until now, he hadn't really considered that to be an advantage. He hadn't had the chance. Now he saw it. It was clear as day. She went crazy fast. Faster than Cliff and Rudeus together. I don't know why he says this. He said several times that he wishes that he had voiceless casting. This was like a hold-up point for him. He really didn't like that fact. He kept trying to do it. Yeah, it's an incredible advantage. The idea that you don't have to actually do the entire... He's been utilizing it for a long time. The fact that he's been able to basically just do firing stone cannons like crazy without having to do the full incantation. The fact that he's been able to do, cumulonimbus for the longest time, lightning for the longest time without having to do this long incantation. It's a massive advantage. Now, I'm kind of curious because I don't remember what they stated her healing level was at, where she was at in healing magic, because I would assume that these individuals have some massively fatal wounds. Now, we're not talking like lost limbs and stuff like that, but still. As Rudeus watched, Edis and Regerd emerged from the bushes and returned to the battlefield. Before they knew it, their line of battle was back on its feet. Isolde took the main shield position, with Doga and Zenoba relegated to sub-shields. Edis, Ghislaine, and Regerd were the attackers, and now Sylphie, with her voiceless healing, was their healer. Their battle line was standing. They made it out of hell. Sylphie called out, "Rudy, I'll hold it down here, so you get to the village. Roxy's waiting for you there." Got it. With that, he set off running to the village in a sprint. Ghislaine and Isolde and Sylphie showing up, hype levels, getting a little quick Pantsu shot of Isolde. Mostly it was Ghislaine. I think for some reason it's just Ghislaine. I do like the fact that during that whole thing, yes, Ghislaine rushes in there, starts chopping him up, and it implies that at that point, Bodyguddi came after Rudeus. Ghislaine attacked him, he's like, whatever, and went after Rudeus. And because Isolde was above him, straddling him, because that, Bodyguddi coming towards her, it's implying that he went to attack Rudeus, and Isolde was countering it, doing her water god style to counter him away, which is pretty cool. But there was also, I do have to admit, there's also a side of me that was wondering if it might have been the sacred beast, because it mentioned the idea of this wolf or whatever coming by, something that was lower to the ground than even Rudeus was. For a minute there, I thought it might have been the sacred beast. There was a side of me that almost didn't think this was going to be a thing. I mean, well, I have two minds, obviously. The first is the cheesy, everybody has to help Rudeus in the end. In the end, every single person in Rudeus's life has to come to the battlefield to help. It's the power of friendship. It's the family. Everything you have built up to this point, everybody has to be present. Like, short of having Sarah showing up out of nowhere, okay, let's not go that far, but like everybody in Rudeus's family has to arrive. Everybody has to somehow contribute in some way in the end. But there was another side of me that was almost wondering if they would actually keep to certain characters like Sylphie, keep to certain characters fulfilling certain roles outside of the battlefield, which kind of led me to believe the idea of what Edis was saying before. No, Sylphie will protect your family. Sylphie said that she'll protect the family. She's there with the family. So my assumption is that she found some way of keeping them safe while she comes here. But there was a side of me that was kind of hoping that characters like Ghislaine, I was kind of unsure about Isolde, to be honest. I was really unsure about Isolde, but it does seem like Isolde has changed a lot. Even though Isolde, yes, seemed like she was very upset about what happened to Reda, I think in the end, she let that go. It's like, I honestly give Isolde a lot of credit for the idea of that, because a lot of people would let something like that, revenge for something like that, to really cloud their judgment. And it doesn't seem like Isolde is letting that be. She does know about Edis and Rudius and who they're working for. It at some point implied that she knew, or at least it could have just been Rudius's assumption and fears. It seemed that she knew that they were working for the guy that killed Rada. And so I thought that was going to be something that would cloud her, but it does seem like she has moved on. No, she is working for her country. She is working for Ariel. Ariel said go. She's come here. She's going to be a part of this battle because she's working for Ariel. She's not working for Rada. She's not working for her master. Her master's dead. And yes, her master was a part of this big, massive plot. Massive credits to her. And her Ponsu. And her Ponsu. But no, I skipped past it, but that image, I have to admit, again, I've never been a massive Sylphie fan. I think she's a good character. I really love how her character has grown. Love seeing her here despite that, basically being the OP healer that can go around, just tap, 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 everybody gets up. But that image goes hard. I have to admit that image goes hard. I love that image of her. I think that's probably one of my favorite images of Sylphie. I think she looks great right there. Rudius ran harder than he had in his life. Sylphie had come. Even though he brought the bridge over the ravine down, she was here. That meant she must have come from the village. That meant that his card that he'd been keeping in reserve had arrived. Arriving at the village, what he saw filled him with joy. The moment he entered the village, there it was, in the distance. That thing that he had been holding out for sat atop the teleportation circle he had drawn up in preparation. It was Roxy. Roxy filled him with a giant was. It doesn't imply it was Roxy. It's Roxy too, okay? He was happy to see Roxy too, okay? Come on, you know that he was happy to see Roxy. He kept running as fast as he could. Big brother, Grandmaster, oh, big bro. He passed by Norn, Julie, and Aisha. But ignore them. He passed by Aisha. Apparently Aisha came with them. That was kind of a shock. I don't know when they imply. I'm guessing that they went back to, I don't know. How did Aisha get there is a question mark. I guess she could have found out about what's going on and retreated from the border. I don't know what would have signaled her to leave the border, but apparently she left the border, went back home, I guess, and then teleported in with Sylphie and them. That was a weird one. I'm not complaining Aisha's safe. I'm not going to complain that Aisha's safe. He just kept running until he reached it. A girl sat on the ground near the broken teleportation circle. She looked exhausted. Roxy. Oh, Rudy. She looked up, dark rings under her eyes, like she was out of mana or hadn't slept in days. That image, by the way, I'm getting it. That sucker is getting printed, and that sucker is going to be up on this wall. And thankfully, there's nothing really in it that's like spoiler. I mean, people can figure out what the hell the thing is behind her, but that's a great image of Roxy. Fantastic image of Roxy. I'm totally getting displayed. I'm so sorry. I messed up the procedure. I dug it out, and after I'd gotten it up, I started working on the teleportation circle. If I'd drawn the teleportation circle first, then had you dig it up, I wouldn't have been so late. That's fine. It's all fine. You got here in time. Behind her was a giant set of armor, 3 meters tall and dark blue. Its right hand was equipped with a Gatling gun, left a shotgun. Beside that, there was a magic sword with the power to ignore all defenses clenched in its fist. The armor was as thick and hefty as a sumo wrestler's body. It was lying face down. It didn't look that different from version 1, but this was not the version 1. This armor, gotten ready just in case an occasion like this, was Rudius's honest-to-God trump card. It was a weapon for short, decisive battles. Increasing its mana consumption several times over gave it massively improved mobility and armor. In concept, it was the inversion of version 3? There's a version 3? I didn't know there was a version 3. I gotta see if it's in here. This is from the PDF. I gotta see if this is in here. It is in here. In concept, it was the inversion of version 3. Okay. Apparently I missed a version 3 at some point. Again, version 1 was for Orsted. Version 2 was basically just like a suit underneath his cloak and everything like that was less consumption. I'm guessing you can call the rebuilt version 1, when they repaired it, which is, again, they've mentioned before, was a duplicate. I guess you can call that version 3. I'm guessing this is supposed to be version 2. This is an inversion of version 2, which would be the weaker one. Anyways, in concept, it was the inversion of version 2, so they named it... This is the magic armor version 0. This is the ace up Bruce's sleeve, his trump card. If he couldn't win with this, scratch that. Useless way of thinking about it. The odds were against him regardless. I'll be back soon, Roxy. Good luck in the battle, Rudy. I did not know that was probably the reason why Roxy was taking so long, is that she had to unbury the damn armor. My whole theories have been this whole time, for those that missed it last Mushoku Monday, is that I assumed this trump card was going to be a magic armor, obviously. Thank good it didn't turn out to be a freaking jet. Thank you, Refugin, for not making it a freaking fighter jet, which I was afraid of it being something stupid. No, it's just an armor. Don't worry, Andrew. But no, I assumed that this thing was going to be somewhere else and just not completed, and she had to complete it first. I didn't think it was going to be actually buried. I didn't have any inclination that it was going to be in the office, that it was buried in the office with that armor, which does make me believe that, yes, that was probably what the man god was after. That's probably why the man god sent the ogre god to take out the office, is because he knew about Rudeus' trump card. Version 1 was apparently somewhere else. That's why he was able to get to it. But probably the man god knew that even with that, he's going to get one shot by the golden armor. It makes me believe that the man god knew that Rudeus had this trump card and wanted to bury it. Wanted to get that damn thing buried. Which makes me almost wonder if he possibly had some sort of sight into the office itself. That he used some way of knowing what was going on in there. Which does make me believe that there might be somebody else that was at some point informant, or possibly just seen through with the man god and seen that armor was there. Either way, buried that whole thing there, and so thus Roxy not only had to go there, wasn't that she had to finish it, she just literally had to dig it up. So this poor girl, my poor little girl Roxy, with her little petite body, is sitting there having to unload all this freaking rubble. Get down. I'm sure that at some point Isolde and Ghislaine and maybe some of the people probably joined them, but it seems to imply that this girl was tired. This girl was tired probably because she had to do all that stuff for herself. Probably got down to it, and that's probably when she may went back there, or maybe got some help from, Sylphie and Ghislaine, and then all decided to come together. But my poor girl, my girl was working so freaking hard. I feel so bad for her. I do like the fact that it turned out to be a blue. It's a blue armor. It's blue because Roxy was working on it. It was made blue for Roxy. That's super cute. Interesting. A couple interesting things about the armor that I didn't get into in a second ago. The armor itself is apparently higher mana consumption. This makes me believe that Rudeus has to get this fight done fast, which makes me believe that Rudeus is not going to be able to do this even with his armor. I think Rudeus is going to go out there, they're going to go all out, things are going to get crazy, everybody's going to have to get the hell out of the way, and I think Rudeus in the end is probably going to get close, but he's not going to finish him. I don't think Rudeus is going to be able to do it with his armor because I think it's going to consume too much mana. The idea here is because he mentioned the idea that one hand is gripping this armor-ignoring blade. It cuts through armor. And the other hand is empty until he gets the Kajikut. Kajikut gets thrown to him. He grabs that. And then he has the shotgun, Gatling gun probably mounted to each side. He's probably going to have to use the cutting blade in order to cut open the armor, and then probably at that point blast him out of it. I'm guessing using the Kajikut blade to blast him out of it. He's got to get him out of the damn thing. That's the only way this is going to work. I don't think they're going to destroy him. I think they're going to have to open it up and push him out of it and get him away from the armor. That's the only way that I can see this ending. That's what he has to do. Because the problem right now he has is that he's damaging him. He's damaging the armor, but he's not doing them both at the same time. He's just merely piercing, and then he's able to regenerate. So that's my current theory, is that he's going to get back out there, rush out there. They're going to go at it with, full power. It's going to get super crazy. At some point, Rudeus is probably going to get a little bit drained. Maybe at that point, everybody else joining in, maybe Ghislaine, probably Edis, picking up the Kajikut blade, and them just going absolutely crazy together to just blast him out of it at the same time. I am at this point kind of curious after the last chapter if the King Dragon blade Kajikut even produces gravity magic. It kind of implied the idea that he was using the blade to manipulate gravity itself, and that's what was making him strong. But then we had in the last chapter, Alex essentially did the same attack, but he wasn't using the Kajikut blade. He was using Etof's blade. Now, these are all, if I remember correctly, these are all blades that are from the same bones. So it might just be an aspect that anything that is from those bones can produce gravity magic. I don't know. I might be misremembering a lot of stuff there. He got into version 0. The sensation of so much mana being drained from his body made him feel dizzy as he stood. Then he saw Orsted standing in the center of the village. He was holding a gigantic sword.
Rudius, use it.
Orsted tossed the great blade to him like it weighed nothing at all. He's like, here, have this. Rudius caught it. It was just the right size for a 3-meter tall suit of armor. I wonder if it mentioned before how tall the golden armor is. I'm wondering if he's now actually at the height of the golden armor. Even Rudius, with his clumsy swordsmanship, could feel the awesome power it contained. This was the King Dragon Blade, Ch2. I don't know why he didn't want to at least give it to Edis before. Like, the moment that he had that, I'm like, just give it to Edis. Like, why would you not have her use it? I guess it could be an aspect that he might not think that Edis could carry it. It might be too heavy and bulky for her. I mean, yes, Edis is strong, but again, no offense here, but she is also still female. Like, there's only so much that she's actually going to carry. She might actually choose to have something that's much lighter. You can have something too big for your muscle mass that it ends up being more of a strain and less useful than something that is lighter and quicker. Anyways, so Orsted, I'll be back soon. Orsted didn't reply, only nodded. Pushing the version 1 as hard as it could go, Rudius sped back to the battlefield. And that is chapter 2. My gosh, dude, hype levels through the freaking roof, dude. Hype levels through the freaking roof. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get into chapter 3 because I see the title. It says the 5th turning point, and I'm assuming that's going to probably have a lot of stuff that I'm going to want to dig into. Because it's probably a good point for us to start to kind of dig back into theories on the whole turning point thing. But I figure I'm probably going to cook a lot with that chapter, so this might end up being a shorter Mushoku Monday than usual. But anyways, yes, we have to talk about this next chapter, because again, this is technically, we're going into the 5th turning point. My predictions with that whole thing is that this is probably going to be the point in which things turn. Things shift. Things change. And so my current predictions going into this next battle is I think that there's going to be something that happens within it that is going to shift everything completely. I think for the longest time with the turning points, we sort of assumed that they were all turning points in Rudius's life. With the first turning point, it was the displacement incident. Obviously, Rudius is enjoying this little time. He's trying to make money, working to, tutor Edis. Eventually, he's going to go back home, and he's going to take Sylphie and then go, and they're going to train together in magic. The turning point was the displacement incident. He got shifted somewhere else. Massive change in his life. And then the second turning point, what was it? He's finally getting back home. He's almost near home, and then Orsted shows up out of nowhere. Basically kills him if it were for the fact that he got healing right there. He gets donutted by Orsted. It changes everything. There was a point in that whole segment with the turning point 2 that I started to shift my theory around the turning point that it was going to be just kind of something bigger. It has to be something bigger. Something grandiose was happening because it was revealing a lot of information. And I think right there it was kind of more of an aspect of, okay, we're just kind of opening up the world. Don't think about it too much. Then turning point 3 comes. Turning point 3, well, there was a couple things that actually happened there. So it's kind of hard to really dictate with that one. We had, yes, obviously, Sylphie is pregnant. That's a massive turning point for Rudius as a person becoming a father. It's significant. But there was also something else there, which was the letter from Geese. That seemingly changed his life a lot because it forced him to have to decide to leave his family and go help his parents. I have to go help this. I need to go do something with this. Should I do that because I have to leave my pregnant wife? It's a massive change in his life. But I think after everything that kind of happened with Geese, you look back at that and you think, okay, Geese is kind of important. This seems to be something that was being manipulated. And again, we find out later that, yes, even back there, Geese was working for the man god. Going into turning point 4, that was the point in which Oldius shows up and tells him that, yes, Roxy's going to die. You got this rat in your house, kill it. Nuke that basement now. Don't let that thing near Roxy. All this stuff is going to happen. Again, a massive turning point for Breeze's life. So everything seemed to be pointing to the turning points being about Rudius. It's always about significant things to happen to Rudius. Now, the shift that happened around the turning points use in the story was around the explanation about the man god. The man god has these turning points, which are basically these segmented times where he's looking into the future to see what happens to himself. And he's employing different disciples in order to help him that are going to help guide towards that future. Or at least he sees a future, and these are each turning points. When we apply that to each of the turning points that we've seen so far, it implies the idea that these are points in which he's trying to kill Rudeus. That, yes, the first turning point is a displacement incident. Now, yes, the man god did mention at some point that he noticed Rudeus the point the displacement incident happened. It was kind of implying the idea that man god wasn't involved with the displacement incident. I think that's a lie. We do kind of get the sense that the displacement incident might have happened because of what's happening in the future. So that did kind of clear the man god of that. Now, when we apply that to each of the turning points, that's where things kind of get a little weird, because we've sort of implied with what's happening in the future, the displacement incident may have been caused by everybody in the future causing some sort of issue here by sending Nanahoshi back. And yes, that was the point in which the man god finally, according to him, sees Rudeus. So turning point 1 could have been the man god trying to do something, but then everything with Nanahoshi and them in the future breaks it with the displacement incident. So it still could be a turning point for the man god. And it just kind of ruins everything for him. And he suddenly freaks out and he's got to stop Rudeus. Rudeus just popped into my future. Everything's suddenly sucking. I got to take out this boy. His family is involved and I have to stop him now. Turning point 2 comes up. So that's when he applies turning point 2. Okay, you're going to work with Reserved. You're going to get back to here. Right there where there's a haze. Orsted will kill him. That's turning point 2. Get Orsted to kill him. Doesn't work. All right, turning point 3. I got to get him over there so he dies in that labyrinth. Geese's letter comes. Okay, still didn't die. That's when turning point 4 happens, which that's when, yes, let's get a rat down there. Let's kill his family. Let's get that petrification in there that'll kill Roxy, and hopefully it'll take out Sylphie too, and it'll take out the children, and that'll set off Rudeus. He'll go crazy, he'll go mad, and it technically worked for Oldius. Oldius's life was destroyed at that point, and the man god won. That was how that won. But, thankfully, Oldius shows up and tells him, stop it. Which that leads us into turning point 5. That would be this whole thing. That would be what we're leading into now, which is where the man god sees I'm coming to my death. Turning point 5, it's ending with my death. I need Bodyguddi and I need Geese to finish this. But I will say I could be wrong in these numbers. Turning point 1 could be after the displacement incident. That could be having him get killed by Orsted. Turning point 2 could be getting him the letter and sending him off to his death in Labyrinth. Turning point 3 could be the petrification. Turning point 4 could be this. Turning point 5 could be the next shift. And that makes me believe that something might happen in chapter 3 that is going to lead to everything falling apart for Rudeus. That this could be the point in which the man god decides a new turning point, and the future that the man god sees suddenly shifts to him winning. And what could that possibly be? Possibly something happening in chapter 3 that is going to completely flip the table, which is one of the reasons why I don't want to get into it now. My only prediction right now is that Geese is doing something in the background where he is going to completely flip the script. And that's probably going to be him sneaking into the town and killing Orsted. I think that's what it's going to be. I think, again, because we have not seen Geese this entire time, my prediction way back there I was talking about is that Geese was chucked over the ravine by Bodyguddi, and he is stuck back there. And so while Rudeus is fighting Bodyguddi over here, he's going to sneak into the village and confront Orsted. And I think Orsted's going to be, oh, there's Geese. You're a disciple. Blast. But he's not going to use too much magic because he doesn't want to waste his mana. You're weak. You're Geese. You're weak. I can easily kill you. Blast. But Geese is not going to die because, again, he has this cloak. And it might be something that Orsted is not familiar with. And Geese might play possum for a second, but then he'll stand up and he'll stab Orsted with that blade that he made. I'm obsessed with that blade. I know. I'm sorry. Watch the blade never comes up again. Everybody's like, yeah, sorry, they never brought that damn thing up again. But I think he's going to kill or gravely wound Orsted, and that's going to be the turning point. Everything's going to shift from that point to the man god winning. That is, again, if the turning points are related to the man god. Again, that's always been the question mark here is, what are the turning points? Is it Rudeus' life shifting a lot? Is it each point in which the man god sees a future, and each one of these turning points is a future that he is seeing? That's the question mark. But anyways, we'll see. We'll see next week as we get into Chapter 3 with the 5th turning point next week. I hope you guys will be patient with me and wait around for that to come around. Massive hype levels. Super excited for it. Cannot wait. Hype. The hype continues to build up with this. Anyhow, that's it for this Mushoku Monday. Hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, if you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. It's the best way to support the channel without having to do anything else. It's just easy. It's free. You just have to click the button. I greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, all that stuff, sharing it out to your friends, helping Mushoku Monday grow as it has. I greatly appreciate the support. As per usual, your kind words. And yes, as always, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. Thank you. But until the next week, until the next Mushoku Monday for Turning Point 5, y'all take care. Anyhow, that's it for this. As Ruiz confirmed that the wall had been destroyed, he assumed himself that it was all going according to plan. He assured himself that it was all going according to plan. Bodyguddi alone would have been in one thing, but Geese seemed like the sort to know how to navigate a forest underneath. It'd be the easiest attack. It'd be the easiest thing to attack. But fighting God,
Blah. I was never an ally with the Dragon God. However, if you win this battle, I shall consider it. Never. Bah. Never. Indeed, I was a boy. Indeed, I was, boy. Indeed, I was, boy. Indeed, I was, boy. Bah. Indeed, I was, boy. He tricked me, saying it was to save Kishirika.
They were no bigger than a grain of ras. Ras? I like my bowls of ras.